I'm not here to waste your guys' time. This is the list of the top 10 best sports cars in GTA Online. You can pause the video if you need to. If that's all you're here for, thanks for stopping by. Drop a like. But for the rest of the video, I'm going to be explaining my reasoning, going through the cars one by one, and sharing why I think they deserve the position that they are in. Like and subscribe if you guys enjoy, dislike if you don't. Either way, the feedback is appreciated, and let us get started. Starting us off in our number 10 spot, we have the Pfister Comet SR. And the Comet SR is the best handling Pfister in the sports class that's also relatively fast. It does unfortunately lose to a lot of the other Pfister vehicles in terms of straight line performance, the newer ones at least, like the S2 and the Growler, but it does make up for its losses in the corners. It's got great cornering speed, it feels great to drive, it feels very balanced. On top of that, it is the best looking Pfister vehicle in my opinion in the entire game, better than the 811, better than the Growler, the S2, whatever other Pfister car is out there, because there's a whole selection of them, definitely more than I can count on one hand, and it is the best looking one by default. And I think it also has customization that complements that. It's simple, but it's effective, which is very on brand with that Porsche less is more kind of look. If you guys are looking to buy a Comet SR, unfortunately it was removed, but whenever it comes back around, you can cop it for $1,145,000. At our number 9 spot, we have the LG Retro Custom. And let's remove the fact that it's one of the most loved JDM cars of all time. Of course, having its feature in Fast and Furious as Paul Walker's Skyline. And if you remove that fact, it's still a great value car. It's got insane acceleration, one of the fastest among the entire sports class, rivaling that of electric vehicles. And if you guys are not aware, electric vehicles tend to have the characteristics of super fast acceleration, lower top end. It's kind of similar to what this car is, even though it's not an EV, but despite it not having the greatest top end, it does have fantastic handling to make up for it. It gives you a really nice driving experience because it just feels really smooth, really balanced in its weight, and it sounds great as well. On top of that, it has a ton of customization because it's a Benny's vehicle, and it has a lot of great customization options, which I think is important to mention because not all cars with a lot of customization have good customization. It's also fairly accessible to new players, and I think its kit is designed to help new players as well, because the base model for this car is the LG RH8, which is a free vehicle that you can claim on the Legendary Motorsport website. You can take that to Benny's and upgrade it for $905,000, pretty cheap. It's hard to find things nowadays that are under $1 million since everything pays so much. New players also tend to crash a little bit more, so having that acceleration on your side it comes in handy. And if you're a veteran driver, it's still nice to just drive a smooth handling car. Up next, we have the Obey 10F Widebody at number 8. The 10F Widebody is the fastest Obey vehicle we have currently in GTA. It's so good, having the kind of new sports car treatment, that it outpaces even some supercars. And the 10F Widebody overall is just a great package because it's fast, it has a ton of great customization options. The car looks super realistic, being based on, of course, the Audi R8. It has one of the best looking widebody kits in the game. It's just hard to make the car look bad. There's very little to complain about when it comes to the 10F Widebody. The only singular complaint is that it should be a supercar and not a sports car, but that's not really the fault of the car, so we can just write that off. And if you guys are looking to pick up a 10F widebody, you can buy the base model, the Obey 10F, for $1,675,000 and upgrade it at Benny's for $575,000, making your grand total $2,250,000 before upgrades. Now, coming in at number 7, we have the Italy RSX, and some of you might be surprised to see how low it is on the list. And I know it is super fast in a straight line, and it looks great, has nice customization, but there are drawbacks. Sorry to you RSX Glazers, but it's time to open your eyes. The car is as light as a feather, similar to the Torero XO. It's basically a Torero of the sports class, where it's lightning fast, great acceleration, great top speed, but it's just so light it can't turn very well. And on top of that, I do think you RSX Glazers are tripping because it is not that much faster in a straight line than the GTO. Half a car length faster than the GTO on the airport drag strip. I made a video a few months ago if you guys need proof, but the GTO it has way better handling, and it would smoke the RSX on any track that has more than one turn. It is also insanely expensive, coming in at $3,465,000. without the trade price unlocked, and that is more expensive than most supercars. I think it might be the second most expensive car, like regular car, in the entire game. Of course, the Dubachi Champion being number one at 3.7 mil. It's like, no, the RSX is fast, bro. Okay, I'm gonna make a point, and I would love to hear some arguments, because at that price, you might as well just buy a Vigilante. It's less than $300,000 from the price of the RSX to buy a Vigilante at $3.75 million. And the Vigilante has a lot more to offer. And like, why wouldn't you do that? It also looks cool, being based on a Batmobile. It also kind of has weird handling, if that's what you're looking for. It's super fast in a straight line, being one of the fastest land vehicles, if you want to include boosters, of course. It has the best booster among all the booster vehicles. It has missiles, which are super useful for heist setup missions and other, you know, bounty-related work. And if you just hate the Vigilante with all your heart and soul, like, there's arguments you can make against it, like, we'll just get the trade price unlocked. It's not that hard. Then it only costs $2.6 million. There's still cars that are cheaper and faster than the RSX down this list, so stay tuned for that. I don't want you guys to think I hate the RSX. I like the RSX. I just think they're better value vehicles. For many years now, it's been in contention for like top 3 sports cars. I think it needs to get pushed down. Now, this one might make people a little upset, because at number 6, we have the Pariah. And the RSX is supposed to have power crept the Pariah a little bit in terms of top speed, acceleration, that sort of thing. And it did. I think the Pariah is a little more reliable when it comes to driving still. I think handling is a big part of driving, and the Pariah, even though it's not supposed to have good handling because it is a rear-wheel drive vehicle, it's like surprisingly okay. Maybe this is just expectation management, and because everyone's like, a lot of the community just kind of, they just rip on the Pariah. Like, oh, the Pariah, it sucks, it's slow, it handles like dog. It's really not that bad. I promise you, it's not nearly as bad as people say. The car is pretty wide and stanced on the ground. It's got a good bit of weight on the back end. I don't know if that has anything to do with the spoilers or what, but the car does keep its back end on the ground, which is something that the RSX fails to do sometimes, and I think that creates a more frustrating driving experience. Of course, the Pariah does have downsides of its own. It doesn't have the best acceleration. It takes a while for it to ramp up to its top speed, so it wouldn't be good for airport drag races, for example. It doesn't have the greatest customization, and I think it looks a little funny, a little reptilian on the front end, like a lizard. Maybe it's just an acquired taste. I don't hate it anymore. I do think there are better looking cars, though. However, the Pariah does have super good value at $1,420,000. Very good bang for your buck for a sports car that goes fast. We are now entering the second half, the better half, and we are starting off with the brand new Paragon S that was added as part of the Bottom Dollar Bounties DLC. Now, coming out the gates, it's got Imani Tech, which is really nice because if you're getting chased by griefers, Imani Tech always comes in handy. But even without the Imani Tech, the Paragon S would be in contention for the top 10 best sports cars because it is fast as heck. It's great off the line and it's got a good top end. Its handling is also pretty good, but it does feel a little bit heavy, kind of lurches forward a little bit, like you've got weight in your turns, so you need to brake a little harder, and it's got that like rolling boulder down a hill sort of effect. But it looks great, maybe an acquired taste kind of thing. I'm not like the biggest fan of the front end, but I think you can make it look really good. And it does have cool and pretty unique customization as well. Some of it may be a little glitched where like smoke is coming out from like a front fender and there's like missing exhaust options, but I would say overall the car looks pretty good and it's fast and it has Imani Tech. So I think it's like a really good package deal, and it also has great value, coming in at $2,010,000. In our number 4 spot, we have the Karin Sultan RS Classic, and boy, am I excited to talk about this vehicle. It is a fantastic vehicle, let me tell you. It's got great customization because it was part of the Tuners DLC. There's like a whole lot of builds you can do with it, and it's going to look great no matter what. It is lightning fast around the corners. It's got super quick acceleration, and of course, with traits that good, there's got to be some drawbacks. And yes, there's some drawbacks to the vehicle. It's got a pretty low top speed, and it's very light, so you can get kind of wobbly from going over curbs. Like this thing does not weigh more than a bush. The Torero XO feels heavier. The thing is, the feeling of this car is really nice to drive when you learn how to drive it. It's got like a little bit of a learning curve, but it feels very rewarding because it turns really hard. It sticks to the ground. It is like glue. And with all that being said, it's a niche pick for races with a lot of sharp turns. It's probably going to get smoked on a track with straights and It's really nice for city driving, and it's nice to customize. And you can pick it up from the two-door section of the Southern San Andreas website for $1,789,000. Now, entering our top 3. They probably go how you expected. At number 3, we have the Panhard Le Curieux. I probably butchered that so hard, but that's what we're calling it. It's a weird-looking French rally car. It's a little silly. I personally like it. I know not everyone's a fan of the visuals, but this car is kind of... It's just weird, and it's like, it just feels creative, like a think outside the box kind of moment, but as a vehicle. And it's fast. It's got the same general characteristics that the Sultan RS Classic that we just talked about has, but it's kind of got more general use. It's an electric vehicle, so it has quick acceleration as well, and it's super wide and very short in length, making it great for taking sharp turns, even better than the Karin Sultan RS Classic. On some tracks, this can even carry you to a victory, like better than the GTO can, but we'll talk about the GTO in just a moment. The Curieux doesn't have a great top end, but it's still fast enough to compete with the top end cars, and it could even compete with a lot of the top end of the Supers class because it is that good at handling. The Curieux also has Imani Tech, which makes it great for protection against griefers, and the price is relatively reasonable, I would say. You're getting a lot from this car, and it's under $2 million. $1,990,000 without HSW. If you do decide to get the HSW, it's going to be $3.6 million. And I know it's pretty steep, but for a car with that many features and really good performance, I think you're getting what you pay for. Now, an honorable mention before we dive into our top 2, because the top 2, it's a little bit of a debate. But for the honorable mention, we have the Schafter V12. And I think that it's safe to give it to the Schafter V12 because it has been such a dominant car for so long. It smokes so many sports cars. Like, it's like a gatekeeper kind of sports car, you know? It's faster than so many sports cars. It's only $12,000. It's got a simple and timeless design, and while it's power crept now, it is still pretty fast for only $12,000. Now, for our top 2 vehicles, we have the Niobe and the GTO, and I'm going to put the Niobe in second and the Italy GTO first. This has been a recent talk, new contention ever since the Niobe was added, but let me explain. The Niobe is fast and relatively easy to drive compared to the GTO. Their relationship is kind of similar to that of the Krieger and Emirates in the Supers class, which are top 3 supercars. And the Niobe is supposed to represent the Krieger with its kind of ease to drive, and the Emirates is a little more risk and reward, which is what the GTO is. The Niobe is easier to control because it doesn't get affected by bumps as much as the GTO, and on top of that, it has what makes a great car great. It's got high top speed, quick acceleration, good handling, good brakes, and it's got good looks and customization, and it's like a whole package. You know, that's exactly what should be at the top of a list like this. It's something with all of those features. The singular drawback that it has is that it feels a little bit light on the back end, and it feels like it could overswing on bumps, and you might get punished a little bit harder than if you were to be in the same situation with the GTO. And then for the GTO, the reason I put it at number 1 is because I think it edges out the Niobe in a few ways. It's got a slightly higher top speed than the Niobe without HSW, and it is slightly faster around the corners. It also has great acceleration and the rest of the features that make a great car great. The car is also quite reactive to bumps, and you can get a bigger reward using the GTO than the Niobe with bumps because the GTO just loves bumps for some reason, and that's what makes it a higher risk, high reward kind of car. And I think the community generally agrees on this point, that it's slightly more difficult to drive because of this feature, because it's a little bouncier and it gains a lot of speed from the bumps. I think it's also slightly better at recovery. If you were to land sideways after a little bump or something, have a little, little spin out, the GTO is going to recover faster than the Niobe. It's got great customization as well. Both are great looking cars. At that point, it's personal preference, but I think the GTO also sounds better because it's a Grotti vehicle. And I know it kind of seems like I'm just nitpicking at the details, but it is a close race between the Niobe and the GTO. So I'm at the point where I have to start nitpicking. It is slightly more expensive though, the Niobe being $1,880,000 and the GTO is $1,965,000. And I know I compared the Niobe and GTO to the Krieger and Emirates, and if you guys saw yesterday's video, which was the top 10 best supercars, I put the Emirates at number 7 and the Krieger at number 1. That's because the list is meant for a more general sense, not just racing. And I think that these cars are different at the end of the day, so the gap is different between them. And I think both of these cars are closer in terms of what they offer than the Krieger and the Emirates, despite them having a similar sort of performance relationship. And then the last thing I want to say about these two cars is that they are both so fast that they could top 10 in the supers class, and it doesn't really matter what you buy. You should just enjoy what you drive. This is just my opinion that I'm sharing. It's an information guide to help you guys form your opinions and help you figure out what you value more and what you should buy. And of course, the last thing for any new gen people is that if the Niobe has HSW, it is easily in first place. Like, that should come as no surprise. It is the fastest land vehicle, 167 miles per hour. And that's going to cost you $3 million. But again, you're getting what you pay for. Make sure to like and sub if you guys are new and you enjoyed the video. Dislike if you didn't. Again, the feedback is appreciated no matter what. Please share your thoughts in the comment section below. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. Maybe I missed something. But that's it for this one. Till next time, take care. Peace.